Hello, and welcome to Let My People Eat, a podcast that provides satisfying talk about kosher nutrition. Here we clear through the clutter of nutrition speak, arm you with the clarity and confidence to eat, feel, and be your healthiest every day. I am Jill Scharfman, a board-certified holistic nutritionist living in Los Angeles, and with me is Dr. Andrea Moskowitz.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Moskowitz, and I'm a neuroscientist and psychiatrist. I use my training and experience to integrate positive lifestyle changes into my patients' lives.
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Jill. How's it going?
It's going well. I've noticed, though, a lot of people around me are getting sick right now. Where it's February, LA, the weather's been rainy and really cold, and it's not so fun.
You're right. It's not. I work with a lot of children and teenagers, and the last month actually I've been getting more cancellations than usual.
Right. So here's a listener voicemail that came in, kind of related to that subject. So let's take a listen, and then we'll answer her question.
Sounds great.
Hi, Jill and Andrea. My name is Brooke, and I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. So first of all, I love listening to your show. Thank you so much for doing this. It's so energetic and full of really helpful information. So I actually have a question for you today. I know flu season is upon us. I have so many friends who unfortunately are having to take off work because they're coming down with the flu. And I was wondering, do you have any tips on how I can avoid catching the flu? And also, do you think it's important and a good idea to get the flu vaccine? How effective is it really? And lastly, if, God forbid, someone does get sick with the flu, what are some good tips to kind of recover and get through it? Thank you so much. And again, really appreciate all you put together for us. Thanks.
Okay, so Brooke had a very good question.
It's an excellent question.
It's about
a set of questions,
yes,
actually.
I was going to say there are like three questions there.
Or more.
Question number one was kind of how to avoid getting sick in the first place.
Right.
Question two was should someone get the vaccine?
Right.
And question three is if somebody, God forbid, does get sick,
right, what
can they do to speed their recovery?
Right.
So let's start with question number one, which is what are some of the ways somebody can avoid getting sick in the first place?
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit, just briefly for people, about our immune system.
Okay.
Because our immune system is really what protects us and helps heal us from getting sick. Protects us from getting sick and helps heal us from getting sick. So you should know the immune system is it's huge. It's composed of a lot of different pieces, and it's spread throughout our bodies. And it includes cells and different body organs, tissues, and chemicals. It helps protect us from pathogens in the environment, including bacteria, viruses, which is what the flu is. The flu is a virus.
Right. Maybe we should talk a minute also. There's a difference between a common cold, and the flu.
Right. It's actually it's a difference in terms of viruses and how serious it can get.
Exactly.
Right. So the common cold is also viruses. It's a set of viruses. Okay, many, many, many different ones. And that's the same thing is true. The flu, influenza, is one subset of viruses, okay? And it tends to produce more severe symptoms. I mean, the common cold, you might get a little bit of elevation of your temperature, but you're not going to get like a high fever like you do with the flu.
Not going to knock you out.
Not going to knock you out. And then also, we'll talk later, but there's like complications that can arise from the flu. And you don't get those generally you don't get those with the common cold. Okay. But they're all viruses. Okay. As are, sometimes people say, I have the stomach flu. It's really a stomach virus. The flu it only refers to technically what's called upper respiratory infection. And so that includes like the sore throat, the cough, the fever, chills, and all that.
Body aches.
Right. Actually, the fever and chills are your body's immune system trying to kill the virus.
Right. Yeah.
So, although you don't want it to go overboard with that.
Right. No, but it's important a lot of people try and suppress a fever when they get it. They try and take Tylenol and they try and cool themselves down, which is really the opposite of what you should do.
I mean,
to a point.
Your body is trying to heal itself.
Right. I mean, yeah. Usually what I tell people to do is kids will actually tolerate a little bit higher fever. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of issues there. So one for adults, like generally speaking, over 101.5, 102, you're going to feel really, really, really uncomfortable, and you're not going to be able to rest as well.
Right.
So that's when I would tell people, take something to bring it down.
Right.
Don't try to knock it down to normal, but bring it down so you can rest.
Right. I usually say at night, like when you're ready to go to bed, if you want to take something then so you can get a good night's sleep.
Or during the day.
If
If you have that high a fever, you're home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing with kids, especially the younger they are, you have to be careful that their temperature doesn't rise too high, because if it rises, not too high, too fast, because if it does that, they can have seizures.
Right.
So, especially under the age of 3.
Right.
So you just want to just watch that. But I agree with you. And the other thing too, for people to know, just because you get rid of the fever doesn't mean that you're not contagious anymore.
Right.
So I've had people come in my office and they don't look good. And then I'm like, are you sick? And they're like, oh no, I took medicine. Like, what did you take? I took Motrin. So my temperature, I don't have a fever anymore. I'm like, I'm like, you're still really contagious, actually.
On that same note, also people try and take things that suppress the runny nose, that suppress the cough. And again, you have to understand, this is your body trying to expel things.
Right.
And by suppressing those, you're just delaying your recovery.
Exactly. And for runny nose, just blow it. But, for cough, sometimes the cough is really tight and you're just coughing and it can really hurt your chest and everything. So I will tell people, just put like Vicks Vapor Rub, do steam, do things to sort of help loosen the secretions in there. I just wanted to explain just about antibodies very quickly, because that gets into the vaccine piece. Okay. So we have a lot of the main cells that fight all stuff are white blood cells, and there's many different types, but I'm not going to go into that. But one of them makes antibodies. So what antibodies are they're proteins that our body makes, and they basically bind to or attach to something else, like a protein in the coating of the virus or the bacteria or whatever, and that then triggers a reaction, and it sort of destroys it. It's like Pac-Man. It's sort of like a very specific Pac-Man for that virus or that bacteria, and it can go awry. So I'm not going to go into that right now.
Okay.
So the other thing, I just want to bring this up quick.
Right.
Is that, and people forget, the other part of our immune system and that helps protect us sometimes, we have physical boundaries. So our skin, our saliva, our tears, our earwax, our stomach acid, the membranes in our nose, throat, and other parts of our body, they're made a certain way. And it's amazing that it helps protect these invaders from coming in and getting rid of them. But sometimes people do things that sort of monkey with them. Mm-hmm. Like, they think like, oh, it's no good to have earwax. It's no good to have so much earwax that it's impacted, but you really do want to have earwax there. Right. So don't go in there with a Q-tip and try to get all your earwax out.
Right. Never.
Or don't go in with like some nasal cleansing thing, I don't know, and try to get like all your mucus out of your nose. It needs to be there.
Right. That's protecting.
Okay. It's all protecting. So,
so let's start, before we get into the vaccine, let's talk about some ways that you could just build your immunity from the start to hopefully not get sick in the first place.
Right. So one thing is something we talk about all the time. I mean, a lot of this is basic health care. Is a diet rich in fruits and vegetables.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
All kinds of fruits and vegetables.
Right. And also wash your hands with soap and water frequently.
Right. Okay. And try not to use antibacterial soaps, because there's actually good bacteria. Just like, we talk about there's good bacteria in your gut, there's good bacteria on your skin. And that sort of helps get rid of the bad bacteria. So when you use an antibacterial soap or Purell or whatever, those products don't know the difference.
Right.
So they get rid of all the bacteria. So that's not a good plan on a regular basis. Look, if you're stuck and you want to eat something, look, it's better to use a little Purell on your hands than not use anything.
Right. So,
but as a regular thing, you should not be going through a lot of that stuff.
Right.
No. No.
Okay.
No.
So, eat a nutrient-dense diet, wash your hands with soap and water, drink more water.
Drink more fluids.
Yes, more fluids. Also, you need sleep.
Right.
Good sleep.
Good sleep and enough of it.
And enough sleep also.
Right.
And positive attitude.
Exactly.
That can also impact, how you fight off. Because you always know there are kids in a family, some kids get sick.
Right.
And then it just bypasses the other kids. So there's something in their immune system that is strong enough, like you talked about your when you were talking about white blood cells, that there are people who have built up their immune system and that they're strong enough when these invaders come into their body, their viruses, they're able to fight them off and not get sick or not get as sick.
Right.
There's a theory that when somebody does get sick, it builds their immune system. It makes their immune system stronger. Is that true?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, I think your immune system does need to be somewhat activated.
Right.
It's almost like use it or lose it.
Right.
So there are, I'm not going to go into this so much now, but there are like some studies of, if kids are too protected from things, they develop a lot of more allergies and
asthma,
bad reactions to things. Yeah. So there's that. It just depends on the person though. I mean, kind of getting sick a lot and
means there's something wrong.
It could be. Yeah.
Right.
And also one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. You have to start looking for what's going on.
Right.
Because that's not good because you don't really recover in between.
Right.
So, I mean, in general, getting sick here and there, yes, it does build your immune system.
It does make it stronger. Okay.
Right.
So that next time you're exposed to something, maybe you'll have a better reaction to it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So,
and then there's also some supplements and some things that can be helpful, especially with the flu.
Once you have it?
No, before.
Yeah. Okay.
So one thing that's been shown, zinc.
Zinc, yes.
Yeah. And I take zinc every day during flu season.
Yes.
So, for adults, about 30 milligrams, maybe 10 to 15 for kids on a daily basis. And there are studies that does help prevent getting the flu and colds.
Yeah. So, and shortens the duration of it.
And shortens the duration. And then if you do get it, you can double your dose for a couple of days.
Right.
Vitamin D supplements, if you don't have a high enough vitamin D level, that activates some of the certain types of white blood cells. And then I said in general, fruits and vegetables.
Right.
But specifically blueberries and red grapes have cause expression of a gene that fights against microbes.
Okay.
And also, this is not for the flu, but for stomach viruses and things, eating things with probiotics in them helps you have a population in your gut of good bacteria. And that also helps if you do have to be on antibiotics,
right? That
it'll help you be able to tolerate them better.
Mm-hmm. But you don't take them within 2 hours. We'll probably do another probiotic thing.
Right.
So let's talk about the vaccine right now, because there's a lot of controversy about whether or not people should take the flu shot. I myself took the flu shot for the first time this year. Okay. I've never taken a flu shot. And the reason I did that was that we were traveling to Israel. Okay. And I have to say my doctor kind of was really pressuring me to get the flu shot. Right. So I did it. And I can't say I'm sorry I did it.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to do it again next year.
Right.
But let's hear the sides of the story.
Okay. So let's talk about the flu shot, first of all. So the flu shot, you should know there's multiple different strains of the flu. So this year, the flu shot was there's different strains. There's A, B, and C. I'm not going to talk about C. A is the ones that give you the most symptoms. B would be like a bad cold with some fever attached. And then the A's are the ones we think of, that get people really much sicker. Okay. So usually it's against 3 or 4 strains of the flu. And when they make these, they make them over the summer or in the spring before the year. So they have to a little bit guess kind of based on surveillance of what's going on around the world.
which one it is. So
which ones. So
right.
This year it was, if you got, there were two kinds of.
You're talking last winter, 2018, 2017, 2018.
No, they guess it, I think, in the spring of
right,
2018
but I'm saying,
for 2018-19 this year.
Oh,
okay.
You're talking this year. Okay. Because like 2014, 2015, it was only 19% effective.
Yeah, let me get to that in a second.
Okay.
So but I just want to explain, it's not against one strain of the flu. So this year they made it against, there were two kinds you could get, but the stronger kind, or the one that had more strains, had 2A strains and 2B strains. Okay. Right. So what happens though, the flu virus, I don't say it's crafty because I don't think it has a brain, but the flu virus is, unfortunately for all of us, very adaptive, and it changes or it mutates. And this can happen during the flu season. And depending on, remember, the flu virus, the flu vaccine is not the flu virus. It's either an inactivated virus or it's a piece of the coding of the virus. It's a protein that then your body makes the antibodies to it. So nobody's getting live flu virus, and I will get to this. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot get the flu from having the flu virus.
Yes,
okay?
that is important. You can, some people can have an allergic reaction.
Okay, they can have,
if they're sensitive to eggs.
Or they can just have a reaction. Mm-hmm. Like some people will, like a day after, they'll feel a little under the weather, a little bit sick. It's their body's immune system being keyed up. But if they would take their temperature, maybe at the most it would go up to 99.
Right.
They're not going to have, it's not really the flu.
Right. So when the body is ramping up, getting antibodies ready. So God forbid if somebody is exposed to the flu in a month or two after, it already has the ability to fight off the virus.
Exactly.
That's how the vaccines generally work.
Right. And it takes at least 2 weeks for it to ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing you should know is that a lot of people say, I got it, and then I came down with the flu 3 days later. Well, so what happened is most of these people are getting it in the middle of flu season because they've decided, okay, everyone around me is getting sick, I better get it. They've been exposed to the virus. And the other thing you should know is that it takes about 48 to 72 hours after the exposure for you to start coming down with symptoms.
So they were exposed before they even got the shot.
Right. But the other thing, too, is that you are contagious for around 24 hours before you have your first symptom.
So, someone who is going to come
down with the flu.
Right.
So you could have been exposed and not even know you're exposed.
Okay. Right. Got it.
So the other thing, too, so you know this, I'm a big Harry Potter fan.
Yes.
So I'm just going to quote, this is a quote from Snape, okay? But this could apply to the flu virus. So I'm going to substitute because he says the dark arts. But let's just say the flu virus is many varied, ever-changing, and eternal. Fighting it is like fighting a many-headed monster, which each time its neck is severed, sprouts an even fiercer and cleverer one than before, which is actually true because the virus is mutates and adapts. You are fighting that which is unfixed, mutating, and indestructible.
It's great.
So wow.
The flu is like the dark arts.
The flu is like the dark arts, right?
Okay.
So the other thing, so I will tell you last year, okay, so that's why sometimes the vaccine is not effective. I've been using the vaccine. I take the vaccine every year because I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago, I had more than that. 23 years ago, I got a very bad case. It was a very bad flu, and I got a very bad case of it. And I developed, we'll talk about this another time about autoimmune diseases.
Right.
But I developed an autoimmune thyroid disease from having it.
Okay,
right.
We'll have to get into it.
So we won't get into it. So I take the vaccine every year. And what I've found personally and other people find, either I don't get the flu, or if I do get it, it's not as bad.
Do you have a concern, though, because where I'm coming from on the holistic side,
right?
That in the vaccines, and if you look at the CDC and they list the ingredients, you have aluminum, you have formaldehyde, you have MSG, you have thimerosal,
which is a mercury, right?
Which is mercury and neurotoxin. Like, how do you justify that part with protection against the flu?
I mean, you have, first of all, it's very, 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 very tiny amounts. Some of it actually doesn't get through your skin. produces a reaction in your skin, but it's like a carrier.
Okay.
It's not really absorbed through.
Okay.
And as I said, the studies on those are, generally speaking, there's no problem with it. And I've had a very bad experience with the flu myself.
So I'd
rather, yeah. I was going to tell you though, just to let you know, from 2017 to 18, the statistics are, this is people who went to doctor got measured. So about 50 million people in the U.S. got the flu. Okay. About half of those went to their doctors or urgent care or whatever for medical visits. About 1 million, so 1/50th, ended up having flu-related hospitalizations because it's not just the flu. You can, as a result of the flu, come down with pneumonia.
Right.
Which can be very serious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not a viral, bacterial pneumonia. Yeah.
Right.
And there were about 80,000 flu-related deaths. Okay. The number of vaccine-related deaths is very tiny. It's either, people can have this very rare reaction, it's even rarer now, called Guillain-Barré.
Mm-hmm.
Or, honestly, what most of the deaths related to the vaccine are people fainting, because people sometimes have a phobia about needles and hitting their head.
Oh, my God.
But that's not that common. But I mean, that's the most common cause of death from the flu vaccine. So I guess the take-home message with that is, if you know that you have this like phobia about needles, make sure you have somebody with you when you get the vaccine
to catch you when you fall,
and also make sure you don't get up really quick after getting the vaccine.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I think we've covered. So you recommend the vaccine?
I think it's a personal decision,
right?
But I think there are a lot of pluses to getting it.
You think the benefits outweigh the risk?
I think in general. And I think there's certain populations of people that should get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people who have severe asthma should definitely get it.
The elderly should get it.
Mm-hmm. You know, people who deal a lot with kids or who are on airplanes a lot or travel, who are going to have a much higher exposure rate should get it.
Right.
And you know, people with maybe other illnesses. Then there are some people with certain illnesses that shouldn't get the vaccine, but their doctors will
tell them that. Yeah. Okay, so now the final question was, if someone does get sick, what are some of the things that we can do? So you talked about zinc.
Right.
We talked about zinc would shorten it. I have a product that I take. It's something you get in Whole Foods. There is a Heckscher. It's an elderberry lozenge.
Oh, yeah.
It has zinc. It also has vitamin C.
That's good.
And elderberry is a real powerhouse when it comes to fighting colds.
Right. So that's really good.
It's a really good. Yeah. It's a lozenge. It doesn't taste yucky. Some of them taste really.
I know.
Yucky.
Yeah, they have a metallic taste.
Right.
Almost,
and then there's garlic.
Right.
Garlic is, really good for you, especially if you can bear eating a raw clove of garlic. What I've been doing actually on Friday nights is I'm roasting a whole head of garlic. I cut up the top, put some olive oil on, and we all just take some cloves of garlic. I don't know how good our breath smells afterwards, but garlic is a great way to help fight off. It's antimicrobial, antiviral. It's really a very, very good thing to take. You also have essential oils.
Right.
You can use them in a diffuser. You can put them on your skin directly. You just need to have a carrier oil with it. Yeah. But essential oils can definitely help clear up some of that respiratory.
Right. And the other thing is lots of fluids, like we said before, warm liquids, herbal teas, chicken soup. I mean, there have been numerous studies. Chicken soup is really good for getting better.
The Jewish penicillin.
Yes. And then the other thing I just want to emphasize for people, don't be some kind of hero. Do not try to dose yourself with Motrin and Tylenol and get up and do everything. You need to rest. That's what most people don't do enough of. They don't take enough time off. They think they can just bounce back after a day or two. No. I mean, if you really get the flu, you're going to be lying around for a good 5-6 days at least.
And you need to. You also risk infecting other people.
Exactly. Right. Because, you are still contagious until 24 hours after you're fever-free.
Okay.
So once your temperature goes back to normal or close to normal, 99, you have to be at that for 24 hours.
Then you can.
And then you're not contagious
reintroduce
anymore.
Yourself to the world.
Right. But if you're tired, you got to listen to your body. Most people nowadays do not rest enough.
In general.
Period. And they don't rest enough when they get sick.
Right. All right. Well, Brooke, I hope that answered all your questions, and I hope you have a healthy winter. And and if not, just use some of these tips to help you get through it.
Yep.
All right, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill.
And that is it for this episode of Let My People Eat. Please visit our website at letmypeopleeat.com and leave us a comment. Get in touch at our email at podcast@letmypeopleeat.com or call us at 317-659-0004. Post on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook with the hashtag #LetMyPeopleEatPodcast. If you like this show, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Tell your friends and family, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts.
And please remember that although we are certified professionals, this is not a medical advice podcast. No content, posts, or comments should be interpreted as professional guidance. Always speak to your own health practitioner about making the right life changes for you.
Until next time, I am Jill Scharfman.
And I am Andrea Moskowitz.
Thanks for joining us.
And go in good health.